For years, Shauna watched her son Kai struggle in silence, trapped in a world he couldn't escape. But when she saw what the dog did to him, she couldn't hold back the tears. It was a moment that would redefine their lives forever. Kai was no ordinary child. At just 5 years old, he lived in a world that few could enter. Diagnosed with severe autism, Kai's days were marked by silence and solitude. His wide, searching eyes hinted at a mind brimming with thoughts, but his lips rarely parted to share them. To most people, he seemed locked in his own universe, a place of intricate patterns and unspoken rules. But to Shauna, his mother, Kai's world was her everything. She was his fiercest advocate, his constant companion, and his tireless protector. Yet, behind her warm smiles and reassuring words lay an undercurrent of desperation. Each failed attempt to connect with her son weighed heavily on her heart. Shauna often wondered, was there a way to breach the invisible wall separating Kai from the world? Their family, while loving and supportive, also struggled under the weight of Kai's needs. His father worked long hours to provide, while his siblings, too young to fully grasp Kai's challenges, felt an unspoken divide growing between them. Quiet evenings in their home were often punctuated by Kai's sudden meltdowns, leaving an air of helplessness lingering long after the tears dried. In their small Tokyo apartment, Kai often sat by the window, staring at the streetlights flickering below. To Shauna, these moments were a heartbreaking reminder of his loneliness. Despite her unwavering love, Shauna knew deep down that her son was waiting for someone, something that could truly understand him. Finding help for Kai was like searching for a needle in a haystack. Shauna had tried everything: speech therapy, behavioral specialists, even alternative methods whispered about in online forums. But none of them seemed to bridge the gap. Therapists would praise Kai's potential, but their methods left him overwhelmed and withdrawn. Schools were even worse. Administrators saw Kai's differences as problems, not opportunities. Rejections piled up, each one a stab to Shauna's already fragile hope. The worst moments came during playdates. Other children, unaware of Kai's condition, would stare, laugh, or simply walk away. Shauna's heart broke each time she saw her son retreat further into himself. She tried to hold it together for Kai's sake, but there were nights when she cried alone in the kitchen, guilt and frustration washing over her like a tidal wave. "Am I failing him?" she would whisper to the silence. The guilt was unbearable. She was his mother, the one person who should have all the answers. But Kai's needs were a puzzle she couldn't solve, and the clock seemed to be ticking louder with each passing day. It was during one of these long, sleepless nights that Shauna stumbled upon a story online. A mother, much like herself, had written about her son's transformation after being paired with a service dog. The boy, who had struggled with autism, had found solace in the quiet, steady companionship of a golden retriever trained to anticipate his needs. The story ended with a photograph of the boy resting peacefully against the dog's side, a small smile playing on his lips. Shauna's heart raced. Could this be the answer she had been searching for? She learned about 4 Paws for Ability, a non-profit organization specializing in service dogs for children with disabilities. Their dogs weren't just pets, they were lifelines. Each animal was trained to sense anxiety, interrupt harmful behaviors, and provide comfort in moments of distress. Shauna spent hours researching, her initial excitement tempered by a cautious hope. The application process was rigorous, but Shauna didn't hesitate. She filled out the forms, wrote essays about Kai's struggles, and submitted every medical document required. Weeks passed. Then, the email arrived. "Your application has been accepted. Please prepare for the pairing process." Shauna's hands trembled as she read the words. Relief, excitement, and a touch of fear swirled in her chest. This was it. This was their chance. But could something as simple as a dog truly change Kai's life? The road to Ohio was not an easy one, literally and figuratively. The family had to travel halfway across the world, leaving the familiar streets of Tokyo for the sprawling landscapes of the Midwest. For a child like Kai, who thrived on routine, the journey was fraught with challenges. The bustling airports, the unfamiliar smells, and the droning hum of the airplane engines all threatened to overwhelm him. Shauna had prepared meticulously, packing noise-canceling headphones, his favorite blanket, and snacks he couldn't go without. But even with these comforts, the trip was a test of endurance. Kai clung tightly to his mother during takeoff, his small hands gripping her arm as though it were the only anchor in an ocean of chaos. For Shauna, every hour in transit was a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. Would this program work? Would Kai connect with the dog? The questions circled in her mind, unrelenting. Her husband tried to reassure her, but even he couldn't hide the nervous edge in his voice. When they finally arrived at the training center in Ohio, the family was greeted by a team of compassionate trainers. Shauna's exhaustion melted into a fragile optimism as she caught sight of the dogs. Golden retrievers, Labradors, and German shepherds, each with an aura of calm and purpose. Somewhere among them was Tornado, the dog destined for Kai. Shauna bent down and whispered to her son, "Are you ready to meet your new friend?" Kai didn't answer, but for the first time in days, he looked up, his wide eyes filled not with fear, but with a flicker of curiosity. The air inside the Four Paws for Ability Training Center was thick with anticipation. Shauna could hear the soft padding of paws against the linoleum floor and the hushed whispers of other families waiting for their own moments of magic. But for her, this was more than just a meeting. It was a lifeline, a desperate hope that perhaps, just perhaps, this dog could reach Kai in a way no one else ever had. Kai stood beside her, his small hands tightly wrapped around the hem of her coat. His eyes darted around the unfamiliar space, his breathing shallow. For him, new environments were like stepping into an abyss, unpredictable, overwhelming, and terrifying. And then, the door opened. A golden retriever with a glossy coat and a calm demeanor trotted in, tail wagging gently. His name was Tornado, and in that moment, Shauna felt her breath hitch. The trainer knelt beside the dog, gesturing for Kai to come closer. Kai didn't move. His eyes fixated on the dog, his body frozen in a mixture of fear and fascination. The room felt unbearably silent. Shauna's heart pounded. Would he retreat? Would he cry? Would this all fall apart before it even began? But then, it happened. Tornado, as if sensing Kai's hesitation, took a single step forward. He didn't bark or rush. Instead, he sat down, tilting his head slightly, waiting. It was a subtle, quiet gesture, one that didn't demand, but invited. Slowly, hesitantly, Kai took a step forward, then another. And then, in a moment that defied everything Shauna had known about her son, Kai dropped to his knees and wrapped his arms around Tornado's neck. Shauna gasped. It wasn't just a hug. It was an embrace filled with relief, longing, and something she hadn't seen in Kai for years, trust. Tears blurred her vision as she watched the scene unfold. Tornado remained still, his breathing steady and comforting. Kai pressed his cheek against the dog's fur, a small smile forming on his lips. For the first time in his young life, he had found something, or someone, who understood him without words. Shauna covered her mouth, unable to stop the tears from falling. She had spent years trying to reach Kai, and yet, in mere seconds, Tornado had done what she could not. The trainers exchanged knowing glances. They had seen this before, the unspoken connection between a child and their service dog, a bond that transcended logic and expectations. "Looks like we've got a match," one of them said softly, but Shauna already knew. In the days that followed, Kai and Tornado became inseparable. At first, it was subtle. The way Kai's hand would drift toward Tornado's fur whenever he felt overwhelmed. The way his breathing slowed whenever Tornado curled up beside him. Each night, Shauna found Kai nestled against the golden retriever, his tiny fingers tangled in soft fur, sleeping soundly, something that had once seemed impossible. Routine outings that used to be a battle were now manageable. Grocery stores, once a minefield of sensory triggers, became easier with Tornado walking by Kai's side. Tornado had an uncanny ability to anticipate Kai's meltdowns before they happened, pressing his weight against the boy's legs to ground him when anxiety took hold. It was as if Tornado could hear the silent storms brewing inside Kai's mind and knew exactly how to calm them. One afternoon, while they were at the park, Shauna watched in amazement as Kai did something she never thought possible. He let go of her hand and followed Tornado toward the swings. "Kai," The boy who had always clung to her like a lifeline. The boy who had screamed at the mere thought of change. Now, he was moving toward the world, guided by the quiet confidence of his four-legged friend. Shauna clutched her chest, overwhelmed by the realization that for the first time in her life, she wasn't holding him back. Tornado was leading him forward. Day by day, the changes grew more profound. Kai no longer recoiled at sudden noises as long as Tornado was near. He could sit through dinner without needing to retreat to his room. His hands, once restless and fidgeting, found solace in Tornado's steady presence. Shauna marveled at the simplicity of it all. Love, comfort, connection, things she had been trying to teach Kai through therapy and interventions, were suddenly happening effortlessly, naturally. But as much as these moments filled her with hope, a lingering fear gnawed at the back of her mind. Was this real? And more importantly, would it last? Despite the progress, the road ahead wasn't without its bumps. There were still moments when Kai struggled, when a loud noise sent him into a frenzy, or when unfamiliar faces made him retreat into himself again. Shauna found herself holding her breath every time they stepped out, afraid that the fragile progress would shatter like glass. One morning, at a family gathering, a relative reached out to ruffle Kai's hair. A simple gesture, but one that sent him spiraling into distress. Tornado immediately pressed his body against Kai's, but it took time before he calmed down. The episode left Shauna shaken. Could they really navigate the world beyond their small, safe circle? The trainers reassured her that setbacks were normal, that progress was never a straight line. Other parents in the program shared similar stories, ups and downs, moments of doubt followed by glimpses of triumph. Shauna clung to their words, knowing she wasn't alone in this journey. Still, she couldn't help but wonder, was this bond with Tornado just a temporary comfort, or was it the beginning of something deeper, something lasting? There were also practical challenges. Adjusting to a service dog came with responsibilities, ensuring Tornado's well-being, navigating public spaces, and explaining to strangers why Kai needed him. Some people understood, others didn't. Is he really necessary? Someone had asked once, eyeing Tornado with skepticism. Shauna had simply smiled, but inside, she burned with the knowledge that Tornado wasn't just necessary, he was essential. Through it all, Shauna remained cautiously hopeful. She had learned that with Kai, patience was key. Every small victory, a successful trip to the store, a peaceful night's sleep, a giggle shared with Tornado, was a reason to keep believing. And so, they pressed on. Tornado was more than just a dog. He was the bridge connecting Kai to a world that had once seemed out of reach. Shauna could only hope that this newfound connection would continue to grow, one paw step at a time. It started with the little things, small, almost imperceptible shifts in Kai's demeanor that, to an outsider, might seem trivial. But to Shauna, they were nothing short of miraculous. Kai, who once avoided even the gentlest touch, now reached for Tornado instinctively. Whether it was a small pat on the head or his tiny fingers running through the golden fur absent-mindedly, it was as if a dam had broken within him. Affection, something that had once been so foreign, now came naturally when Tornado was near. Mornings were no longer a battle. Instead of resisting every change in routine, Kai would wake up, search for Tornado, and sit beside him with a quiet sense of purpose. The boy who used to panic at the thought of stepping outside now stood by the door, clutching Tornado's leash with a newfound confidence. Their walks, which were once hurried and tense, transformed into peaceful strolls. With Tornado leading the way, Kai could now explore the world without fear, pausing to look at flowers, watching the wind ruffle through the trees, and even making eye contact with passers-by. For the first time, Shauna witnessed her son experiencing the world, rather than just existing in it. But it wasn't just the external changes that struck her the most. It was the emotional ones. Kai had begun to laugh. Genuine, unfiltered laughter. Tornado's playful nudges and clumsy attempts at catching his tail sent Kai into fits of giggles that echoed through their home. Shauna often found herself holding back tears of joy, watching Kai's face light up in ways she had never seen before. And then there were the moments of quiet companionship. Shauna would peek into Kai's room at night and see him curled up beside Tornado, his small hand resting on the dog's chest, rising and falling with each breath. It was a comfort unlike any other, an unspoken promise that he was no longer alone. Kai still had his difficult days, meltdowns triggered by unexpected noises, moments where the world felt too big and overwhelming. But Tornado was always there, a steady presence grounding him through the chaos. Tornado had become more than just a companion. He was a lifeline, a friend, a protector. As Kai's world opened up, so did Shauna's. For the first time in years, she could breathe without the constant weight of worry pressing down on her chest. The fear of Kai slipping further into isolation had once consumed her every waking thought, but now she could finally rest. Nights that were once spent lying awake in silent anxiety were now peaceful, knowing that Kai was safe, comforted by the presence of his four-legged guardian. Their family dynamic began to shift in ways Shauna had never dared to dream. Outings that once required meticulous planning and contingency plans were now filled with spontaneity. They could go to the park without the usual dread of a public meltdown. Picnics, nature walks, even small trips to the grocery store felt less like insurmountable challenges and more like simple, joyous experiences. Kai's siblings, who had once struggled to understand him, found a way to connect through Tornado. The dog became a bridge between them, engaging them in games, inviting Kai into their world in ways that words never could. Suddenly, their home was filled with shared laughter, playful chases through the living room, and bedtime stories read with Tornado curled up at their feet. Shauna marveled at how one dog had managed to change the entire rhythm of their lives. But perhaps the most heartwarming change was in Kai himself. He no longer hid behind closed doors or buried himself in his routines. He was present, truly present, in their lives. There were days when he would sit next to his siblings, watching cartoons, giggling when Tornado barked at the screen. Other times, he would tug at Shauna's hand and lead her outside, his silent way of saying he wanted to explore. The journey wasn't perfect. There were still challenges, moments of doubt, and hurdles they had to overcome. But for the first time, Shauna felt that they were not fighting this battle alone. They had Tornado, and with him, they had hope. One evening, as Shauna scrolled through the photos on her phone, she stumbled upon the first picture she had ever taken of Kai and Tornado together. In it, Kai was clutching Tornado tightly, his eyes closed, his face buried in the dog's fur. It was a picture of trust, of healing, of love. With a deep breath, Shauna opened her laptop and began to type. I never imagined that a dog could change my son's life. I never imagined that Tornado would become more than just a pet. He's family. He's the friend Kai always needed, the protector we always hoped for, and the light that brought our family closer together. To the trainers at Four Paws for Ability, to every parent who knows what it's like to feel helpless, and to every child like Kai who just needs a friend, there is hope. And for us, that hope has four paws and a wagging tail. She hit post, and within minutes, the story began to spread. Messages flooded in from parents across the world, some sharing their own struggles, others expressing how Shauna's story had given them a renewed sense of hope. Photos of other children with their service dogs filled the comments section, each one a testament to the silent, unwavering love that these animals provide. Shauna hadn't expected the response, but she welcomed it. Because if sharing her story could help even one family find the courage to take that step, to believe that a better life was possible, then every tear, every sleepless night, and every struggle had been worth it. One evening, as she tucked Kai into bed, she whispered softly, "Thank you, Tornado." The dog blinked up at her, tail thumping softly against the floor, as if to say, "I've got him. Don't worry." And in that moment, Shauna realized something profound. Kai had found his friend, and so had she. The bond between Kai and Tornado wasn't just heartwarming, it was life-changing. But their story is not an isolated one. Across the world, autism assistance dogs have been quietly transforming the lives of countless children and their families, offering more than just companionship. They provide safety, structure, and an unspoken understanding. Studies have shown that therapy and assistance dogs can significantly reduce anxiety levels in children with autism, helping them navigate social situations and cope with overwhelming sensory input. According to research from the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disorders, children with autism spectrum disorder, ASD, who have a service dog experience notable improvements in emotional regulation, sleep patterns, and even communication skills. Tornado's ability to sense Kai's distress before it fully took over was not a coincidence. It was the result of meticulous training combined with the innate empathy dogs possess. Organizations like Four Paws for Ability have dedicated themselves to matching children with the perfect canine companion, understanding that every child is unique and requires a tailored approach. The training these dogs undergo is nothing short of extraordinary. They are taught to recognize early signs of distress, provide deep pressure therapy to calm a child during sensory overload, and even act as a social bridge, encouraging interaction with others in ways that traditional therapy often cannot achieve. Shauna had been skeptical at first. Could a dog really make such a difference? But Tornado's presence had reshaped her understanding of therapy. Kai's once limited world had expanded beyond their apartment, beyond his comfort zone, into playgrounds, grocery stores, and parks. Beyond Kai's story, there were countless others. A little girl named Lily, who hadn't spoken a word until she met her Labrador, Buddy. A boy named Max, who had always struggled with eye contact, but now confidently walked into his classroom with his service dog beside him. These stories, woven together, painted a picture of hope, proof that sometimes healing comes in the form of four paws and a wagging tail. Shauna realized that autism assistance dogs weren't just support animals. They were bridges that connected children to a world they had once feared. Kai's journey with Tornado taught Shauna one invaluable lesson. Love and patience could conquer even the most insurmountable obstacles. There were days when progress seemed invisible, when the weight of uncertainty pressed down on her shoulders. But looking back, every small step had led them to this moment. The sleepless nights, the tears of frustration, the moments of doubt, they were all part of the journey, a testament to the power of unwavering hope. Shauna's love for Kai had always been unconditional, but Tornado showed her something profound. Love doesn't always come in the ways we expect. Sometimes it's silent and steady, found in the rhythmic breathing of a dog lying beside a child who once couldn't bear to be touched. Sometimes it's found in patience, allowing space for growth, understanding that progress isn't linear, and celebrating the tiniest victories. Shauna's experience had shifted her perspective. Before Tornado, she had measured success in milestones, speech development, social interactions, academic achievements. But now, she found joy in simpler things. Kai reaching for Tornado's leash, his laughter when Tornado chased a butterfly, or the way he gently stroked the dog's fur without being prompted. Her message to other parents facing similar challenges was clear. Don't lose hope. The journey might be filled with uncertainties, but love, patience, and the right support system could make all the difference. Through her story, she hoped to inspire other families. Parents who felt exhausted, who questioned whether they were doing enough, who longed for their child to feel seen and understood. Shauna wanted them to know that there were solutions beyond the traditional, that love could come in unexpected forms, and that sometimes all it took was finding the right companion. Shauna knew that her story was powerful, but she also knew that there were thousands of families still searching for their own Tornado. Families who hadn't yet discovered the incredible work of organizations like Four Paws for Ability. In an emotional post that quickly went viral, Shauna shared her journey with the world. The response was overwhelming. Parents reached out to her, seeking advice, sharing their own struggles, and asking how they could access similar programs. The impact of her words rippled across social media, shedding light on the transformative role of service dogs for children with autism. With every comment and message, Shauna felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew she had to do more. In her call to action, she encouraged people to support organizations like Four Paws for Ability, whether through donations, volunteering, or simply spreading awareness. Every contribution, no matter how small, could help another child like Kai find their perfect match, a companion who could offer them a sense of security and belonging. Shauna's message was simple. If this story touched you, consider making a difference. Share this story, educate others, and if you can, support the organizations that make these miracles happen. Because every child deserves a Tornado. She included a link to the donation page, along with a heartfelt thank you to everyone who had supported them along the way. And the response? It was beyond what she had imagined. Donations poured in, stories were shared, and families found hope in knowing they weren't alone. Shauna realized that by sharing her experience, she had not only changed Kai's life but had also ignited a wave of compassion that could help countless others. As she watched Kai playing in the backyard, Tornado faithfully by his side, she smiled, because she knew their story was far from over. It was just the beginning of something even bigger. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden glow across the backyard. Kai's laughter, once a rare and fleeting sound, now filled the air like music. Tornado bounded beside him, his tail wagging furiously, matching Kai's unsteady but determined steps. They weaved through the tall grass, a boy and his dog, inseparable, unbreakable. Shauna watched from the porch, a warm smile tugging at her lips. This moment, this simple, beautiful moment, was once just a dream of connection, of companionship, of hope. And now, it was their reality. She wrapped her arms around herself, feeling the weight of their journey lift. Tornado didn't just change Kai's life, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. He changed all of ours. And in that moment, she knew the future was no longer a question mark. It was bright, filled with endless possibilities. With Tornado by his side, Kai wasn't just surviving anymore. He was thriving. The journey of Kai and Tornado is a testament to the power of love, patience, and the unexpected ways in which hope can manifest. It teaches us that true connection doesn't always come in the form we expect. Sometimes, it arrives on four paws, with a wagging tail and unconditional loyalty. Kai's transformation reminds us that breakthroughs take time, that progress is often measured in the smallest of victories, a touch, a glance, a shared moment of trust. It is a story of resilience, of a mother's unwavering belief, and of how companionship, whether human or animal, has the power to heal in ways we never imagined. Tornado's presence proved that love transcends language and barriers, offering a lifeline to a boy who once lived in the shadows of isolation. And for every parent walking a similar path, Kai's story stands as a beacon of hope, proof that sometimes the right kind of love can rewrite a future, one gentle paw at a time.